From somewhere below the surface of the Midwest, in the studio wing of the adult fans of Nerf's secret bunker, this is the Avon Show. With your hosts, Mr. K and Mr. S.
Welcome to the Adult Fans of Nerf Show. Today, we're going to get our balls out. Today we're going to be talking about ballistic balls and their role in the history of Nerf.
Yep. I'll be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about this this whole side of things, so Mr. M's going to kind of, Mr. K, Mr. M, Matt, is going to be kind of the helmsman for this episode, because I just play with the stuff.
Yep. So, the first ever Nerf blaster was a ballistic ball blaster that was called the Blaster Ball. Shot one ball, it's a big old pump ball shooter. And the next ball shooter after that was the Blastomatic. It upped the number of balls that you could have in there at once. It still only fired one at a time, but you could have 3 balls inside of it. We're going to show graphics here of the Blaster Ball.
Because we don't have any.
And the Blastomatic. Yes, I don't have any yet, but I'm working on it. I don't have many of these ballistic ball blasters, just the ones here on the table.
Just got a small collection of balls.
Yeah.
It's going to be such a dirty episode.
So, and then after the Blastomatic came the slingshot. Now, I have a slingshot. I have no clue where it is, but we'll show you a graphic so that you can see what it looks like. It was a pretty simple blaster. Held 3
I
balls.
wouldn't call it a blaster. I mean, it's a slingshot.
Yeah, it's a slingshot. I mean, it didn't work very well, but it was still pretty cool for, at the time, showing that they were thinking beyond just the tube blaster.
And trying to give kids a safe alternative to making their own home slingshots, which I did and caused many bruises. And yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. So then after the slingshot, we had the Master Blaster, which is the successor to the Blaster Ball and the Blastomatic, and it allowed you to have 8 balls in 2 different chambers. It fired one, and then it fired the other. It still only fired one at a time, but you could get your balls off.
It was higher
quickly.
capacity.
Yes. So then came the Balzooka. Still one of the best ball blasters around.
It looks cool.
It does look cool.
This is probably the first one that I ever got to play with myself as a child. And
I'm missing some balls.
Sounds like a personal problem.
It can hold 3 balls in each
tube,
up to 15 balls total. But
that's 3 times 5 for those of you doing math at home.
I'm missing 2 apparently.
There's one right there on the floor because it was in the Atom Blaster I shot.
But yeah, I mean, you put it back, you pop it forward, pops ball out, and the chamber rotates itself when you pull back.
Yeah, let me see that. Yep, it works.
Yeah. One thing about the ballistic balls is that some of the blasters, if you hold them up close, they can bruise quite easily.
That wasn't a bruise. It was a minor inconvenience. Alright, what's next? Is that next? Next is the
Switchfire. This is the 94 edition Switchfire. There are 2 Switchfires. The first one fired balls and missiles. The second one fired missiles or arrows and darts, I believe. So we're not including that in this episode. Just the 94 edition of the Switchfire, which was actually the first recalled Nerf blaster because it had switchable barrels so that you could fire balls or you could fire missiles. And sometimes it would become
a missile launcher.
Yes, so it would shoot off the attachments and hurt kids, so they recalled it. And that's why they released the 96 edition.
Let my son play with it. Just don't take your friend's eye out with it.
Wear vision gear. This was before the days of vision gear, so they didn't really have vision gear.
You had kids with glasses. That's what you had.
Yeah, if you were lucky. So next up came the Ripsaw. Now the Ripsaw is the predecessor to today's Buzzsaw. It basically worked the exact same way, only it was black and it had a different shell. It was a lot noisier because it had a little bit bigger flywheel. But the Ripsaw was actually the first flywheel blaster. Now today we have motorized flywheels. But I'll show you later on the Buzzsaw.
You'll get to hear it too.
They can be a little bit noisy, yes. Next up, we had the pulsator. Now I have a pulsator. I can't find it. I don't know where it is. I got it, and I didn't really care for it, so I put it away and I didn't deal with it. So I lost it, and now I don't know where it is.
There's a comment somewhere about lost pulsating balls, but I can't put it together right now.
So it worked a lot like the Balzooka, except for it had two barrels that would move back and forth and fire one ball at a time. It wasn't that great, so that's why I lost it. Next
now
up,
he's admitting he lost it on purpose.
I didn't lose it on
he didn't
purpose.
like
I
it.
put it away and forgot where I put it.
Exactly.
Next up came the Motorized Ballzooka, which is also called the Balzooka MP150. Now this is a noisy bastard. It was the only upside to it was that it was fairly accurate and got a decent distance for a ball blaster. It was supposed to be the next generation Balzooka, but it never really took off because it took batteries and it was really noisy and just not at all.
How many balls could you hold in that Balzooka?
I'm honestly not sure.
Your research has failed you.
I didn't really. I looked up some interesting tidbits on each one. I didn't really go in depth. It's a lot more research than we usually do for one of these shows.
It's because you usually know everything. You don't have to research.
Yeah. Balls are a little bit unknown to me. I only know a little bit about them.
Moving on.
Moving on came the AirTech Ball Blaster. Now the AirTech Ball Blaster is pretty much the first reactor. The reactor has seen a couple of iterations. It's been called the AirTech Ball Blaster and the reactor twice, and then it's also been called just the Ball Blaster. So yeah, we'll get to that later once we talk about the reactor. We'll show it off a little bit more. Next, the Atomizer.
That's not an atomizer, that's a slingshot.
This is the Atomizer, that's what they called it.
Still a slingshot.
Atomizer. It was the Atomizer slingshot.
Fine.
Now this guy, unlike its predecessor, even worse. It has weaker elastic, and it only holds 2 balls. It's just not that great of...
That's probably the best shot you ever got out of it.
Yeah. So, yeah, that came out in 2002. Next up came the Cyclotron.
That thing looks weird.
It does look weird. Here's a picture of it for you to see. Now, the Cyclotron is... I'm pretty sure it's a flywheel blaster.
It looks like it's got a giant flywheel on it. I'm just looking at the picture on his iPad right now because I don't really know what this stuff looks like. It's got a hand crank on it.
Yeah, it holds up to 6 balls in it, and I'm pretty sure by the cranking motion that it's got to be a flywheel blaster. But you know, you spin it up and the balls pop out. It looks big and bulky, and it just doesn't look like...
Yeah, the thing looks like kind of a beast, depending on how big it is. I'm guessing it's something that you probably can put up to your shoulder.
Yeah, because it looks like it has a little bit of shoulder stock on it. Of course, next came the first reactor.
Well, you're thinking, what's the difference between the 2 reactors? Well, looking at the picture, this one is a lighter blue than the one that I'm looking at right now, making it the second generation of reactor.
It's the first generation reactor.
What?
It's the second generation of the ball blaster. Because the first one was the AirTech Ball Blaster.
Yeah, AirTech Ball Blaster.
This is the first reactor.
The darker colored reactor, and then the lighter colored reactor.
Yes.
Which is that one.
So there's 3 generations of blaster is called the Reactor. Now this guy, you know, you just pop out balls like that, you know. It's a pretty simple blaster. You build up some air pressure and pop out some balls. Now, that guy was first released in 2001 as the Reactor. Next up, you've already seen this guy in the start of our episode. This is one of our favorite ball blasters.
My personal favorite, really the only one that I really would like to have in my collection.
Yes, it is very hard to find. It's a nice little pea shooter. You know, you just pop the ball. It has one of the... You have one over there.
I do. Yes, I do.
It has one of the most unique firing mechanisms of any ball blaster, in that it has this little kind of rubber membrane that gets pushed in when you push the ball in. The ball gets locked into place, and then, oh, right in the throat.
I was aiming a little bit lower than that.
These guys have a little pep to them. These were actually designed by a student at MIT for his project. I think it was probably his capstone project.
Something like that. It was some kind of a product design, toy design project.
Yep.
I think it was specifically a toy design project.
Yep, and then he got hired by Hasbro. They got the design from him and put it into market.
Here we have the Atom Blaster.
Yep, and now he's actually at the U of M.
Teaching product design.
Yep, he's teaching product design,
Yep.
specifically teaching a class on toy design.
Which is cool.
Absolutely.
He's local.
Okay.
Yay.
Next up, the Buzzsaw. Now you'll get to hear just how loud he is.
Thing's just a beast.
It is a beast. It fires balls pretty decently, but it's as loud as hell.
Yes, it's probably got one of the best distances. I mean, like the Reactor and stuff, you'll probably get it 10, 15 feet, something like that. This thing will probably go like 15, almost 20 if you get it ripped up enough.
Yep, if you give it enough power, it'll probably go pretty far. I do like the design of this blaster. I mean, it does look pretty cool.
For the first flywheel blaster, I mean, they could have really done a lot worse.
Yeah. And, of course, we have today's Reactor. It's up next. It came out in 2004 along with the Buzzsaw.
Yeah.
And if you look hard enough at like Toys R Us and stuff, you can still actually find these
They
guys.
do still actually market them, yeah.
Yep. But you can only find the Buzzsaw and the modern Reactor. The only other one that I really have is the Ball Blaster. And the Ball Blaster looked a lot like the Reactor, but instead of the shotgun style handle or grip, it had more of a
Actual secondary handle.
Yeah, more of a secondary handle. And I believe that it was made by Lannard instead of Nerf, when Lannard handled some of Nerf's products.
News to me.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that.
So yeah, the history of the Ball Blasters has been quite a big part of the history of Nerf.
Well, if they wouldn't have come up with the Ball Blaster, we probably wouldn't have the N-Strike line or any of the awesome stuff we have today.
Absolutely. I mean, it might not have gone anywhere if they hadn't created the Ball Blaster. So, I mean, really today you can't find many Ball Blasters, but it's our hope that Nerf decides to bring back the Ball Blaster and make it something greater than it's ever been, and make it in addition to maybe the N-Strike line. It has a terrific potential to be, say, like a grenade launcher type blaster.
Yeah, they could do a lot with balls, as long as they stay away from the innuendo jokes.
Absolutely.
Like we can't seem to because, well, dang it, it's fun.
We're ballsy.
Yeah, yeah, really,
I went there.
you went there. Gods. All right. So what we got to do now? You got to pick up your balls off from all over the floor.
Yep. Yep. We gotta pick up our balls. But first, we're gonna sign off. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.
What's
for
the
our
next episode on?
I have no clue.
Again, it's going to be a mystery because he doesn't know and I don't know, so none of us know.
Yeah. Well, then our next episodes will more than likely be on more in-depth to each blaster instead of covering different series and different topics. We're going to look at each blaster.
Oh, really?
And just go over blasters more together. You know, look at a couple in the dart tag line, look at a couple in the strike. You know, a couple
You're
of
gonna let
vortex.
me be a cynic? Because
Yeah.
you know that's what I'm good at. Good, we're gonna argue.
Do a
Lots
couple-
of arguments.
A couple of little reviews each episode, and just get some more information out there.
Yes. I like it. All right, catch you on the flip side. Love, peace, chicken grease. See you later.